ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the EMU Review. I am Jason Heinen. I just got done refilling my tonic, getting all my potions in order, sharpening up my sword, because I am your knight in shining armor today, boys and girls. And I know what you're thinking. And no, I'm not preparing for the Renaissance Festival. I mean, why else would I get dressed up in this leather and metal armor? There would be only one reason, and that is to review one of the largest franchise titles in role-playing game history. We are reviewing Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo. Developed by the oh-so-magical Squaresoft in Japan, this game became available April 2nd, 1994 in Japan, and October 11th, 1994 in North America. This game has a huge history. 16-year run. 1999 on the PlayStation, and in 2007 for the Game Boy Advance. This is crazy. Even in today's world, the game is still available. There is so much to know about this game. It is a phenomenal game, and it's not going to be easy cramming this down in 10 minutes. But to help out with all the facts, I am joined today with video game historian Chris Bacuzzo. Chris is an avid gamer and collector and specializes in role-playing and strategy games. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, and I'm especially glad to talk about this game. If you were to go up to a group of RPG fans and ask them what their favorite Final Fantasy game was, you're probably going to get one of two reactions, either an overwhelmingly unanimous response, or you're probably going to cause a couple fists to fly because people feel very strongly about these games, especially this genre of game. I think one thing we can all agree on, though, is that this game, Final Fantasy III, was really a landmark game. This game set the standard for every role-playing game that would come after it, in particular the Final Fantasy games. There is so much I can say about this game, but let's face it, I've only got 10 minutes to do it, so I'm going to try and cover some of the key factors of this game that not only set it apart from the games before it, but really also set the stage for the games that would come after it. First thing we're going to talk about is graphics. This is one of the games that did utilize the Mode 7 technology. You'll notice this in one of the opening scenes in the introduction, where the main character is walking through a snowy field headed towards the first town. You see the snow falling, and you see the image of these cliffs in this town slowly rising from the horizon. Really gives it that kind of 3D effect that was really hard to emulate on these games, but they did a really good job with it. You'll also notice this technology later on in the game when you're able to obtain an airship, or even when you're riding on a chocobo. You're able to see the differences between the ground, the sky, the ocean, so it actually kind of feels like you're in a different world. Now here's another neat thing you're going to notice about the graphics, and you'll see this a little bit later when we get into our first battle. Look at the character sprites very closely when you're walking around towns, or you're even walking on the world map. Then watch as the scene fades and you get into a battle. The sprites don't change. This was something that was very rare to see in any game, period. Typically, due to graphical limitations, the sprites on the world map had to be a different size, different shape, even a different color palette than what you would see in the battle. But in this game, they made it very streamlined, which was really nice to see. The last thing I'm going to say about the graphics is the attention to detail. Everything from the colors and textures to the characters and level designs. There was a great deal of effort that was put into this game, and you can see it from beginning to end. The next thing I want to talk about, which is my personal favorite, is the music for this game. If you're an avid Final Fantasy fan, you know this name, Nobuo Uematsu. He is considered the John Williams of the video game world, and quite frankly, I'd have to agree. The music that he's put into this game is just above and beyond anything we're used to hearing from previous games. I mean, this game pretty much had it all. You've got some really intense battle music, you've got some campy music, you've got some opera, which you can hear in the background, you've got some techno, and you've also got some very dark music as well. Mr. Uematsu is very, very talented at what he does, and this game is really a classic example of a really great composer who's just doing what he loves to do, and it's we, the fans, that really get to reap the benefits of this. I mean, the music from this game alone was so popular that it got its own soundtrack. Many copies were sold and released in the US and in Japan, and you'll hear a lot of different remakes of various songs. You'll hear live opera performances and rock band versions of different songs. I mean, just the songs in this game were really just very catchy, and you felt the power and the emotion of these tracks, and really every track was just very memorable in its own way.
Man, I just want to sit and listen to this song. It sounds so good.
The last thing I want to talk about is just some key aspects of this game in general that really made it what I consider to be a landmark game. The first thing I want to talk about is the character development. If you've played this game, you know that there's a total of 14 different characters that you can get, which was unprecedented by itself for an RPG. The really great thing about this game was every single one of those 14 characters had their own distinct personality, and over the course of the game, you really got a feel for these characters, and you got to know them on almost a personal level as if they were one of your good friends. I think at this point in the history of role-playing games, developers were really starting to realize that the focus of the game wasn't just on the battles and the action and the puzzles, but in order to really pull a gamer in, you had to make it somehow real for them. And on that note, this game actually did touch on some very controversial themes at that time. You'll notice as you're playing through the game that there's certain scenes where they touch on topics such as teen pregnancy, death, suicide, and on top of that, we've got the primary antagonist of the game, Kefka, who pretty much is the closest thing you can get to a terrorist back in 1994. Although admittedly, he does have some great one-liners, and he was rated number 3 out of the top 10 villains of all time. In Nintendo Power's 250th issue, you still see him burning down villages and poisoning kingdoms, all because he has such a morbid fascination with death and destruction. And this was even after the game was scaled down from the original Japanese version, which had cursing, a lot more violent themes, things that were very much frowned upon in the Americas because Nintendo of America did not want any of us exposed to that type of behavior in a video game. And this is definitely where I have to give props to the head translator for this game, Ted Woolsey. He definitely did a really good job with making this game Americanized, for lack of a better term. Considering the fact that he had to translate this game by himself in a matter of only 30 days, and on top of that, he was not allowed to use words like dead, kill, or anything else that could potentially offend the parents of younger generations that would be playing this game. I still think he did a really good job of maintaining the overall integrity of the game, considering the fact that it is a very dark game and it does touch on many of these topics, yet he was able to make it very campy and humorous in a way, so it really could be enjoyed by anybody who wanted to pick up and play it. And you'll notice that I keep saying the word dark a lot for this game, and the reason I say that is, most games you beat the boss, you save the world, and everything's just a happy ending, but this game doesn't give you the sort of ending you'd come to expect. This game instead took a completely different approach, and it showed us as a gamer that certain things you do or choices you make can't always be magically undone, and you have to be prepared to pick up the pieces and make the most of what you have. This ties back into the character development, because you really see how people who were once total strangers all band together for a common cause, and I think that alone speaks volumes towards what we do as a society when we're hit with our own catastrophes of any kind. All in all, in my expert opinion, I have to say that this is one phenomenal game, and this game will go down in history as one of the best role-playing games of our time. Not only is it a great relic of the past, but it also helped give us a good glimpse of what the future could hold in store for us as well.
Chris, thank you very much for your expertise with the review.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
What I like most about the game is that it is just so dark all the way through. And not that I'm condoning evil always win, but in this game, that's what we see. It's pretty incredible. And sometimes for gamers, that's just kind of nice to see. And of course, I just did a quick eBay search and found that you can find this game, just the cartridge, for around $45 shipped to your door. If you can somehow find it complete with box, manual, maps, game, you'll be dropping around $100. And there's one live right now. It is currently bid up to $202. So if that isn't proof we're not here blowing smoke up your ass, then I don't know what is. If you're into role-playing games, or if you're into this genre at all, this is a must-have game. It needs to be in your collection. So, the EMU review grade for Final Fantasy III.
This game gets an A+.
Don't mess with terrorists. They'll burn down your village.